Small minds discuss people, average minds discuss events, and great minds discuss ideas. That's a well-known quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, and we know that this applies to our schools. How do you know exactly who you can trust on your campus and who to align yourself with as a friend? I am Candace Valverde, and this is Teachers Talk.
And I'm Kim Hunter. Hi, everybody.
Hi, it's Katie Nilsson.
So we have 3 questions that you can ask to find who you can trust at your school site, because we know it's so difficult, especially when you're new to a school site, who to know, like who you can go to, who you can trust, who you can be friends with, and, that's going to build you up as an educator. So our first question is, what do the teachers discuss in the staff room? Is it building people up? Is it the people themselves and focusing on all the little things? Or is it the events? Is it the ideas? What is it that they're discussing in the staff room?
The people you can trust or the people you can't trust, because what they're discussing are 2 totally different things.
Right?
Yeah. Sometimes in the staff lounge, teachers are talking about their weekend or things they did with their families. But I feel like more often than not, they're discussing students. And, that might be more indicative of where I teach, because it's all the same grade level having lunch at the same time. And so we share students. So we use that time sometimes to discuss situations or problems with students. But often it's sadly very negative. I'd like to think that we're using that time to be productive, since we share those students. Hey, so-and-so is having a hard day, so-and-so, this happened. And we do that. But
so if you're around a lot of teachers that are discussing other people, be it like students or other teachers or admin or anyone, and they're kind of focusing on the negative, how do you get out of that? How do you find a place where you belong?
It's sticky. It's something that I don't want to be a part of. I don't want to offend people, but when I've found that when people start talking bad about admin or other teachers, I try to remind them that, you may have seen X, Y, and Z, but you didn't see what happened behind closed doors. It's easy to jump to conclusions on what I saw, what happened, what transpired, but we need to remember as adults that we're not privy to the whole picture, and therefore we should not jump to conclusions, and we shouldn't discuss them with other people unless we're going to be open-minded and say, I prefer to be not a complainer and not a gossiper, but be a problem solver. Hey, how do you think things are going in this situation? Instead of being accusatory and negative.
So you kind of look at it with a broader perspective. Katie, do you feel like that approach helps? What has your experience been?
I think it goes a lot to actually our video that we did a few weeks ago or last week about support, because when you feel supported by your colleagues, there's a difference for me with my team with venting versus being negative. Is there something is going to go wrong? It's the water cooler talk when you're in an office. Pick the location. And we don't really ever go into our lounge because we're always with students, but it's the demeanor of, are you venting because this was really frustrating and you're human and I was really frustrated about this situation and this particular person. Okay, now it's out of you need that person that you can vent to, and that it's a safe place, and they're not going to turn around and go, oh, guess what so-and-so said and so-and-so said and so-and-so said. Because sometimes as humans, especially when we work together and see each other more than we do sometimes our own families, it's going to be, oh, that situation really ticked me off and I want to vent about it. But then it's that, okay, now what are we going to do about it to make sure it doesn't happen again, or to improve it in the future? And I think that's that conversation, especially being a new teacher going into a school, is, are the people that are coming to talk to you and engage with you always talking about someone, like the quote you just shared, or a problem that isn't going to ever be fixed, and it's always been this way, or are they doomsdayer people, or are
Or
they,
a problem without a solution, right?
you're just, that's, you read my mind. Here is this problem, and there's a period.
And then I'm just going to keep complaining about it, and like
Yeah.
nothing's ever fixed, and it just irritates me all the time. That's not productive.
It's that
right?
perpetual just cycle. So I think that ownership of going, wow, this is what I'm hearing from this person of, so what do we do about that? And sometimes people will say, well, nothing, I just want to gripe. Had to make that PG.
Well,
And
we
there
have
are
to be
people
careful.
who
Go ahead.
Well,
do that. And that's what I'm saying, is that it goes back to your quote. It just goes back to your quote of seeking the solutions.
yeah. And I feel like that's really hard to do. I've been on many campuses where it's so much easier to get sucked into the group of teachers who are going to complain, and they're going to be negative, and because they want more people to join them, and they want to like build that negativity.
Misery
Because-
loves company.
Yes, exactly.
Negativity breeds, it breeds, and it can overtake a school. It can be ugly.
It can be, yeah. And it just, you don't
It's
want
a
to go to
choice.
work and be in that negativity if that's not who you are.
No, there's been times that I just refused to go into the staff lounge because I just didn't want to be a part of that. Didn't feel connected and didn't want to connect with some people at previous schools. And
Yeah. It can be.
I want to surround myself with people who are going to be problem solvers and thinkers and doers. I'm okay with venting.
But just,
We all need to at some point, but
Well, you need to have that person that you can vent to and feel safe, knowing that that conversation stops there, and you're going to come up with solutions, and you're going to move on from it. Not where they're going to go and tell.
Right. How can we make this better? Okay, you got that out of your system.
Right. It's not going to be like, oh my gosh, Candace at lunch, she was talking about blah, 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 and I can't believe it. That's not going to help anybody.
I have been known to be a hothead because I am passionate about what I do. I will own that. But I will be the first person to say, okay, I overstepped, my bad. So I have a lot of my teammates will say, okay, are you done? Yes, I'm done. Okay, now what are we going to do about it? Because that's there has to be a next step.
There has to be, a person to help you with
Here
that.
we go again. It's just not that cycle that I want to be a part of. And at FLAIR, we always say it's because we care. Well, you can't care about students and what you're doing if you have a crappy attitude and all you're doing is complaining. So you have to look in the mirror first.
yeah, I want to go to work and enjoy myself, enjoy the students, enjoy my staff, and have a positive experience. Who wants to go to work and just hear negative, 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 and have the whole school culture be that way? I don't want to be part of something like that.
To add to that though, negative things happen. And especially at school, sometimes multiple times a day. But it's that being in that moment, or 10 minutes or 35 minutes of an issue, and then having the professionalism and the mindset of, okay, that 35 minutes sucked, or that 12 seconds really sucked, but not dwelling there and bringing yourself back to, okay, what am I going to do to get myself back? And then having those safe spaces to make sure that time frame doesn't repeat itself, because it's cyclic. And again, like you said, it just breeds. But I think the power that we have in knowing our personalities and knowing our flair and knowing our style is to be examples, because positivity also spreads. People know that there are certain people you can't gripe in front of, and that it's not going to be tolerated. And so I just try to emulate myself on, when I get hot-headed, that I have some people in that I can trust that can say, okay, you good? Okay, let's fix it. and not just this constant cycle. So I think it's a lot of, again, knowing who you are as a person and what you want to be around, and then making sure that you own your own awesomeness and say, you know what, I'm actually not going to participate in this, or I'm an event now and I'm going to go back to work.
Yeah.
Katie, something you said earlier, you made me think of when people ask me, you know, do you like your job? Do you like teaching? And I tell them, yeah, most of the time we have good moments and bad moments, good hours, bad hours, good days, bad days. But overall, if we can't turn the bad or the hard times into good, then I wouldn't still be teaching. I love my job. I love what I do. I love working with students and uplifting them and helping them. But we can't say it's an all or nothing deal. There's the pendulum that goes back and forth, and I want to weigh on the positive side more than the negative. And finding safe places, I have to say, is hard in a school, because I give my students the same advice I would give any new teacher. Be careful what you say to whom, and don't ever say anything to anybody if you're not willing to say it to that person's face, because what you say, there's very few confidences on campus, whether it's the students or staff.
Yeah. And I think that brings us to our second question, which is, how do they talk about other staff members? And that can be other teachers, which we know teachers talk about teachers a lot, but also like the support staff, the admin, the secretary, like, you know, everybody. How are they talking about them? Is it with positive in mind? Is it with an open perspective?
Unfortunately, I think, you know, what we work on in the classroom with our students is not to focus on the negative. We need to focus more on the positive. And what I see is the mistake that a lot of teachers make, you know, focusing on the negative. And I see and hear more negativity than I do positivity. But since I've been working with FLAIR and working with teachers on my campus, and we have been very purposeful about focusing on the positive and making sure we let other people know that we appreciate them and that we value them. And I really, it takes retraining. And that's what I hope that we're providing for our followers and FLAIR educators.
Well, I think that goes back to who you surround yourself with. And if you're around people who you know are going to be encouraging and they're going to be supportive of anyone.
I think for me, what I was going to add in when we had this unique perspective, I am very blessed at my campus, because I've been at it from the beginning, and we've kind of created a community of that kind of stuff just isn't tolerated. It's not what's best for the team. It's not what's best for the community. It's not what's best for the students, the parents. And if we expect students to act a certain way, then we better by dang be modeling that. Something that I found that really helps me, that I'd like to share kind of on our FLAIR platform, is to assume, and again, we talked about this a little bit ago, you assume positive intentions. And so often people are very much, there's two, I guess, styles, if you will, or perspectives on things. One, I lost my train of thought, sorry. On one side, there are people who say, well, I trust you until you prove to me that I can't. And on the other side, it's, well, I don't trust you until you prove to me that I can. And I think that extrapolated is very much everybody has a role. If you're on a school campus, you have a role and a position and a purpose. And if you are feeling negative or disconnected, then you're not sure what your role or your purpose is. And so to define that of what that individual brings to the team meeting the community, the school, the playground, the students, the whatever define your team is, but if you don't know what your strengths are for the team and what you bring to the team, or if a colleague that you know doesn't and they're unsure of themselves, that's where I see the negativity creep in. Because if you're confident in, you know what, I know my role. I'm good at this. This is something I struggle with, but this I struggle with, but I know Candace is really good at that, or Kim is really good at this. And you are able to collaborate with each other. I think the negativity comes from fear and from not knowing how to fix something. So again, going back to the solution seeking is if it's okay, this person is really good at this skill, or this person is a really amazing human being and they are so kind and so amazing, but they really kind of suck at this particular concept when it comes to team meetings. And to know that
so you're
that they're really
giving,
struggling with isn't that they're a horrible person. It's we need to fine tune that area.
You're giving them the benefit of the doubt. You're assuming like everybody's here. We're teachers. We have good intentions. We all want the kids to do well. We want the school to be successful. And you're kind of leading with that positive intentions.
How we go about it is very different. I think
I just wanted to say what you're leading to is really what we talk about and explore when we talk about our different teacher styles. Is valuing each other's strengths and not and acknowledging those strengths and learning from each other, and you know what, giving each other grace too for the things that maybe we're not so good at. But just because I'm not good at one thing doesn't make me a bad teacher or a bad person. And it is something that I think that we really need to do more of, and that is, we talked about in one of our videos recently about the lack of respect that teachers have for each other, the lack of respect that maybe they get from their admin or from parents or students. But we need to hold our heads up high and we need to act like professionals. And sadly, a lot of staff members don't, or we get so beat up and so tired and so wrapped up that maybe we lose sight of that. But we are professionals. We are educated professionals. We're there for a reason, for our students.
Yeah. I mean, you have to remember that, right? And then surround yourself with those people that are going to be supportive and be your team to really help you experience your full potential on campus.
Which, being with you and the two of you and Angie, this year has made a huge difference in my attitude, my happiness, my effectiveness in the classroom, my mental and emotional health at school and on campus with my students. Like, it's surrounding yourself with the right people and walking away from those who you maybe can't change, you can't lift them up, you can't show them your way, then you need to limit your time with them.
Right. Yeah. Now that brings us to our third point, and this is a really difficult one. How do they talk about their students? So we brought that up earlier, where they're talking about students in the staff room, but how, like, what is it that they're saying about students? What do you see?
Can I start with this one?
Please do.
This is a 20-year veteran teacher talking, and someone who is taught at the elementary level and at the middle school level and at the high school level and with adults. And I can tell you, I had an office when I was an instructional coach for a little while that was in the same room as all the bus drivers. So if you can have perspective of what people talk about when they're not in the classroom, I've heard it from every angle. And I can tell you, when we take the kid out and the humanity out is when people lose their minds and get negative. It's the actions of that naughty kid. I can't believe he did that. And whatever the action is, this is kind of a soapbox of mine, I apologize, but it's so important to me if you hear someone venting, or if you yourself do it, those of you who are watching, if you find yourself venting about a kid and all you have to talk about is their actions and the behavior you see, then you're missing it. That knowing the person and they're having a rough day, there's a reason why behavior happens. And the mentality of, well, it's not my problem, means you are part of the problem. So unless you've explicitly taught them to do something or not to do something, that is my biggest, I will call you out if I hear you directly. Like, just know that, internet. Like, if I hear you talking about someone in a native light that is not in a way that supports them and their humanity and their dignity, and being a teacher of people with severe special needs, if there are people in the community or other people that should be supporting them that are talking about them in a way that is not improving their quality of life, I will say something. And I think that goes back to whether you're in 3rd grade or whether you're 31, that just because you may have punched a hole through the door and it happened, oh dear Lord, for like 2 weeks straight, and everybody was like, that kid, just get him out of here. Well, then what? Then what does that solve? It solves nothing. It passes the buck down the line. And as an educator, that stops with me. So I am very passionate about that piece, but if you're talking about someone, I'm gonna call you out. So if people are talking about that, don't do it in front of me. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah.
Katie,
Tim, what do you
like,
have to say?
struck a chord with me. I'm going crazy over here because Katie, I think you and I are a lot alike. I started teaching because of that negativity I heard when I was volunteering at my own children's preschool. And I volunteered so much, I ended up working there part-time. But I mean,
Negativity about preschool kids?
Preschool.
They're like 4.
Right.
So you judge
2,
them
3, 4
as their person at 4 years old.
The problem
Yes.
child.
Yes, the
Wow.
naughty child,
At
the one who
4.
would bite and hit, and the teachers just shunned him and said he's bad. They didn't want anything
He's
to do
bad.
with him. Like, no, children behave the way they do for a reason, And I was like, my goodness, like I need to help. I need to, what do you call it? Support the students and be there to protect them, to help them, to understand them and not just write them off. In fact, teaching summer school this summer, I'm doing something completely different. I'm not teaching 6th grade math and science. I'm teaching 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade students PE. And my first day, I had the cutest boy, but he was bullying kids. He was needy. Every time I turned around, he was behind me or he was ready to hit somebody. And I was like, whoa. And I actually had a couple students who were afraid to be in class with him. So I went to the supervisor and said, hey, this can't go on. This is day 1. Like, you need to contact parents. And they contacted the parents, talked to him. He came the next day. The kid comes running up to me and gives me a hug. He has behaviors, but his heart is so full, and so he's human, right? So full of love, and he's like one of my besties now, and he's returning for our 2nd session of summer school. But we have to have compassion and understanding and look beyond the behaviors. And if you can't do that as a teacher, you probably shouldn't be teaching, right?
Yeah. I mean, they are kids. They're still learning. So however you're talking about them, that says a lot about.
I'm still learning.
Yeah, that says a lot about you as a person. If you're saying, like, you're labeling these kids and saying that they are this way forever, and they have, like, you've already given up on them, that says a lot about you as a teacher. And if you're going to give up on a kid, then why are you there? What are you doing in the classroom?
It's hard. It's hard to stick with those kids, but that's our job. That's my drive. That's like, I want to be able to turn that child around. I want to build a relationship with that child. And I talked to him on the phone the other day because he's returning for 2nd session. I said, I'm so excited that you're going to be with me again. And like, that's the joy. That's the beauty.
I'm always surprised at the end of the year where, like, I say this every year, my most difficult class that I had all year long always ends up being like my favorite or most memorable because of that. Because I'm constantly looking for a different approach or something that's going to work for them so that they can turn around and they can be the students I know they can be.
My
Right.
hardest students, physically and emotionally, are the students who made me better at my career.
Mhm.
And I think that's the other piece too, is I feel like as people are watching this, and I'd love to know what they think, is that there's a mindset of, well, I became a teacher to teach history. I became a teacher to teach English, but we're in a teaching, the business of teaching is people. And
Mhm.
people aren't just going to sit down and say, that's just not, we don't. I
Really?
mean,
Not.
if you sit down and you're in a training and you're doing that, I have some things to say to you too, but just there, that's not how we learn. That's not how we grow. I read something the other day about that connects to this completely, but that we want everything to be positive all the time. Like usually you can't see my tattoo, but my tattoo says choose kindness. Choose kindness. Because I have a choice to be a very bitter person with things that I've been through, or to be kind. And some days it is hard to choose kindness. I'm not saying that it's easy. There are hard days, but I think of those choices we make and how we go through life. And the thing I was seeing was, a skilled sailor does not become a skilled sailor in calm seas.
Right.
And I
That's true.
read
Yeah.
that and went, whoa, these trades of people that are skilled in what they do, it's not because it was always calm, smooth skies or calm seas. And I think in education, we just look at it differently for some reason. I don't know why, because those harder things, I would be so bored if I could just
Can you
teach
imagine if
every
you
day.
just had kids
Oh
every
my
day that
gosh.
just sat there and listened and did
I
everything you
I
told
would
them
be
to?
so
Everything is
bored.
at those classes like that are super quiet and don't interrupt and don't like misbehave. And I'm always like, what is wrong with
What did
you?
I
What is
miss?
going
What
on?
is on?
What what is this? This is not
And
normal
there are all those
behavior.
quiet kids that great, you get them together. That's wonderful. But I just think real life, if we're expecting things to be positive all the time, and we don't grow. And in
Mhm.
order to grow as people and as students and as educators, we have to not only deal with those turbulent seas, but to learn how to navigate them. And by venting and being nasty and just talking about how big the waves are isn't going to do anything about it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's just my little analogy. I thought it was, we were
No,
talking.
you're absolutely right, Katie, that through struggle comes strength and knowledge,
Mhm.
and coming through out on the other end just makes you stronger.
Right.
For
Yeah.
those of us still teaching right now, and coming into the profession, there's
You're
muscles there,
strong.
right? I was like, no. But for those that are new to the profession, that it's okay that you can't lift that much weight, or that your boat, going back to that analogy, is a little bit unsteady. Lean on those people who have been there and who say, yeah, that storm's tough. That March
Yeah.
storm every year, it's a doozy, but that you're gonna make it through it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Even if you're like just finishing your first year, that's like the most challenging of all the years. So many things happened my first year. I can't even remember, but it's, if you survive that, then, oh my gosh, you're so much stronger than you were in August or September at the beginning of that year.
and going through the questions you asked and prompted to these conversations, is that it's the people, it's
Mhm.
with these people, again, like I said, more than you're with your own family and your own kids sometimes. And so if you are surrounded by negative, try to be that person that chooses
Mhm.
kindness, that goes, okay, I vented, now what am I going to do about that, and be a solution seeker and not just restating the problem.
Right. Yeah. I can think of every single school site I've been at, which this is my fourth school site that I've been at. And I can think of like my people at every site that helped me get through it. Like they helped me be a better teacher just by being that support system for me.
And often I think it's perspective,
Mhm.
not doing anything special. It's just
No,
offering perspective, but that's special.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. So think of the people that you're surrounding yourself at your site, and can you answer these questions in the way that you want them to be answered, to be the teacher that you want to be, and to earn the reputation that you want to have on your campus, which I think is another big question. Like, what is that reputation you want to have? What do you want to be known as on campus?
And you might be going here, Candace, but my thought that I want to engage with people is if you are, what are you doing? Share that. And if you're doing some reflection and you realize you're not, what do you need to change? What do you need to do to make sure that that doesn't continue? And that cycle.
Right. Yeah. What are you doing that is making you appear the way that you don't want to be remembered as or viewed as?
Right.
Or opposite, what are you doing that's like making you successful and who you want to be? And how are you sharing that with people around you to also build them up?
And share with us.
And share with us. Yeah.
Because we're sharing, but that's how we grow. We surround ourselves with people like each other and those of you watching to be the best we can be.
Yeah. Okay. So final thoughts. Okay. What do we think? These 3 questions, how are they going to help us in our next year? I know our school is actually not going to have that many new teachers this year, which is great. It's been a while, but last year and this year, like, we're pretty good.
Our school is actually shifting quite a bit this year.
Is it? Okay.
And I kind of feel this internal, okay, those are questions that I'm actually going to write down and hopefully get some feedback from people after watching this discussion, that I have the power to be that change and to model what I want to see. And if there are people who are not, then being that person of asking those questions of why do why do we sit here and vent? Is there a solution? And maybe we can help another teacher change their mindset.
Yeah, because we don't get a manual when we start teaching. This is how it's going to go. Day 1, do this and this. So we're giving you a manual of who to find on campus, how to find the best people that are going to help you.
And the answer sheet. So if you're saying one of these and you're like, oh, maybe that's not the right one, tell us.
We need to, as veteran teachers, we need to be the leaders and we need to try to help, because when there's so much negativity, it ruins the school culture for teachers, and then it just trickles down to the students. They see it, they feel it. And so again, as a veteran teacher, we need to be leaders. It's the principal doesn't always have the power to change that. We all have a responsibility to be professional, be leaders. And when someone goes down that rabbit hole of negativity, there's kind things, a nice way to say, hey, I totally get you. I feel your pain, but you know what? Hey, let's talk about it and see what we can do to try to make things better.
Yeah.
Or to make the statement, hey, you're making a judgment and I get it from what you're telling me you saw, but you probably didn't see the whole thing or don't know the whole picture. And that's something I've learned in my maturity and age, is that, it's just like when you have 2 little kids, they argue, mommy, he hit me, she did it first, she said this, she said that. It's like you weren't there to see it. And it's like you don't get the whole picture because you weren't there. And we need to remember that as adults.
It's that positive reframing. People tease me all the time about the way I positively reframe stuff.
That was the word I was looking for, Candace. It's not that it's not that happening, it's that we can reframe it, and you do that so well. Thank you. But just like what I hear you saying and just that little twist. So that makes me excited to actually rewatch this and hear from other teachers and how we're all going to grow and start this next school year out with answers to those 3 questions of who we can trust moving forward.
So if you can think of any other questions that people need to be kind of reflecting on as they're making friendships with, new teachers, or you're joining a new staff, or continuing with the same staff, but maybe making changes in who you're surrounding yourself with? Are there other questions that you're asking or things that you're reflecting on? Please let us know in the comments. As always, like and subscribe, share with your friends, and follow us because we love your support and we want to support you as well. All right, have a great day, afternoon, evening, and we'll see you next time.
And remember,
Bye, everybody.
care is because we care.
That's right.